This is an extraordinary step, threatening to send Australian citizens to jail if they try to come home. I don't think I can remember ever seeing anything like this.
I'm stunned, frankly. I've never known a government to make a virtue of locking Australian citizens out of Australia.
This is another very difficult decision. I feel terribly for the Indian community.
The Prime Minister has spent the week trying to defend the shock announcement of a ban on travellers from India, including Australian citizens.
No one's gone to jail. I think the likelihood of anything like that occurring is pretty much zero. I want to stress that if you have been outside of India for 14 days, there is no restriction on you re-entering Australia. Australians of Indian heritage who are in India now, we will get them home. It will take time.
It might have been the bluntest of decisions, but it seemed to be accompanied with the haziest of explanations, delivered in the most perplexing of ways. The midnight announcement, the failure to clearly explain why Australian citizens in India were being treated differently to those in other countries, the question of whether the problem was at the government-run quarantine facility at Howard Springs and/or hotel quarantine, and the question of what is so magical about the 15th of May. They all only added to the anger and confusion felt about the Morrison Government's decision.
Some people have said that we didn't need to put in place the same measures when dealing with travellers from the UK or the United States. Keep my day job, eh? Keep my day job.
The government seemed to be getting its messages a little clearer today, but the politics have already become very splintered. The Prime Minister is facing everything from allegations of racism to an erosion of confidence in the handling of the pandemic. The need to dissuade people from trying to get back into Australia through indirect flights was behind the spectre of jail terms and heavy fines. And that need reflected the alarm of the government's medical advisers that the particularly virulent strains of COVID in India were increasingly prevalent in travellers and could escape our quarantine system. But the snap decision to completely close the borders to India, leaving 9,000 Australians on the other side, saw previous critics of state border closures expressing outrage and the government facing a legal challenge to the constitutionality of its move in the federal court.
Our borders have proved to be a very strong barrier to COVID, and we are keeping them strong.
The government was under attack from doctors, its own backbench, and even cricket players. And there were hinted suggestions that the ban might even be lifted earlier, with ministers saying the position was being reviewed daily. So what does the 2-week ban achieve, and how will authorities use the intervening period to better prepare our border bioprotections? By today, a strategy seemed to be emerging. There will be more measures put in place to screen people for COVID before they travel. There will be an initial run of government evacuation flights, meaning the need for more room at Howard Springs rather than a return to commercial flights where passengers are funnelled through hotel quarantine.
The pause will enable us to get Australian citizens and residents and their immediate families back to Australia under those repatriation flights.
That in turn means getting the COVID positive people and the close contacts who might still test positive out of Howard Springs. And it means buying a bit of time before the facility is expanded by the end of the month. And while the government considers a Victorian government proposal for another dedicated centre in Melbourne. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is working overtime to build bridges with India, an increasingly important strategic partner.
We must work together. We must do it safely. I want to thank you for your patience and your understanding.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.